Yeah, kind of like.
But they're so.
Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Martin O'Malley's gift to Larry Hogan. Budget shortfall grows to $1.2 billion. Merry Christmas, Larry. The city of Rockville pulls the old zoning switcheroo, and the end of year review, part 2. Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by Republican activist Jerry Cave and Maryland Republican National Committee woman Nicolee Ambrose. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Last week, speaking in Montgomery County, Republican Governor-elect Larry Hogan painted a grim portrait of the financial house he will inherit next year, saying Maryland needs strong medicine to end an era of outside spending, end quote. Thus ended the political honeymoon between the Republican governor-elect and the Democratic power structure. Nicolee, what advice would you give the governor-elect?
So I think Larry's window to accomplish things is actually the first 2 years of his term. And I think we are all very hopeful and excited about the fact that we have someone who will finally act like an adult. We have gone from a $30 billion to basically a $39 billion budget. We are a third smaller than the state of New Jersey and yet have a much larger budget, just for example. So we need an adult who's going to rein in spending. Larry's already been working very hard at this. He hasn't had a day of vacation since being elected, and thank gosh we have someone who's going to handle this and hopefully solve our financial problem and bring some jobs to Maryland.
Well, let's all be hopeful about that. Jerry, the numbers released by the Board of Revenue estimates stem from the fact that Maryland's economy failed to grow as robustly as predicted. Now, does that mean Martin O'Malley cooked the books last year and is leaving a mess for his successor to clean up?
It means all of the above. Of course, Martin O'Malley cooked the books, but one thing is just unbelievable is these people in Annapolis never took any economics courses. When you raise the price of something, like raising taxes, you get less revenue. I mean, it's been proven over and over. So, and the biggest problem is that Martin O'Malley didn't do this by himself. His co-conspirators in this crime are still going to be in Annapolis. And my advice to Larry Hogan, which I'm sure he won't take, is that he should make sure that the people understand that the co-conspirators that created this problem, they need to be complicit in solving it as well.
Well, it's really unfortunate that normally our two Democratic panelists aren't here tonight because they would disagree with you vociferously. What they would say to you is that we are caught in a national malaise and Maryland is just suffering like all the rest of America, and that the Governor O'Malley, has done a fine job balancing the budget and maintaining the strong economic position that the state has been in, because we still maintain our AAA budget a bond rating.
That's preposterous. We get 20% more revenue from the federal government than we send, in contrast to New Jersey.
I want to refocus the whole question, because I want to refocus back to what the governor-elect is going to do to try to control spending. Now, it was surprising that the Montgomery County delegation, immediately after Mr. Hogan's speech, came out very critical of the governor-elect, as if the governor-elect can't determine the fate of Montgomery County.
And this is where Montgomery County is at such a disadvantage. You have no two-party system here. You don't have a single Republican elected in office anywhere in this county to represent you in Annapolis. So when you have, and I really actually don't think, I'm not going to say the entire Democrat power structure in Annapolis agrees with the Montgomery County delegation, because what was it they said? They said, oh, heaven forbid you actually rein in your spending to match your revenue. Absurdity. And I believe most Democrats in the state have some sense of understanding that there should be fiscal responsibility. So I'm going to suggest and really implore people in Montgomery County to consider a two-party system that will get you decent representation.
That's wonderful down the road. But the fact of the matter is, the legislature is still controlled heavily by Democrats in Annapolis.
Sure.
And won't the governor-elect have to rein in some of his radical ideas about cutting spending in order to satisfy the General Assembly? Jerry.
How do you call that radical? That's a stretch even for you, Casey. It really is. Listen, he ran on a policy to rein in spending and taxes, and the man is going to do that, and that's what the state needs. The reason the Montgomery County delegation objected to it is because they're complicit in causing that problem, and the first thing they want to do is distract from that. Hogan has to hold the legislature accountable to solve this problem.
Jerry, it's a pipe dream to believe that you can cut taxes and that'll cause revenues to rise. That's just nonsense.
You know what, Casey? Instead of all those law and history courses, you should have squeezed an economics course in there, because when you cut taxes, when Kennedy cut them, revenues went up. When Bush cut them, revenues went up. And when you live with other states that have lower taxes, the businesses leave, the income leaves.
No,
that's what's happened to the state of Maryland.
What we really need is the budget deal that was negotiated with the Congress provided funding for the Purple Line. It provided funding for the Red Line in Baltimore. Mr. Hogan has been sitting on the fence with respect to those two major projects, and Maryland and Hogan need to come out in support of them.
Well, I would certainly understand why someone might be sitting on a fence if he's been just handed, surprise, Merry Christmas, right after the election, a $1.2 billion shortfall. I think the people of Maryland pretty soundly spoke when they elected Larry Hogan by 5 points. They want fiscal responsibility. And the numbers back us up here. We have a higher unemployment rate despite everyone else's economy doing well,
Nicolee,
despite all of our federal funding.
When people say they want fiscal responsibility, that doesn't mean they want taxes to be cut. They don't want their taxes raised. It's not that they want them cut. They just are tired of seeing the increases in spending.
Well, I would strongly disagree, and I think that was very clearly voiced on Election Day in November.
That's the only thing Larry Hogan ran on. He didn't run on any other issue, and that's why he got elected. And he didn't get elected by Republicans. Right. There weren't enough to do it.
I just want to tell
it was Democrats and independents.
I just want to tell you two soldiers here to enjoy the next 3 months, because the fact of the matter is the Democratic Party put up a terrible candidate, just like they did when Bob Ehrlich was elected. The fact that there was poor voter turnout had to do with the candidate and not the message that your candidate was delivering.
Au contraire, my friend. I was on the phone with people, and they were furious about what's going on in the state of Maryland.
Enjoy the one term. That's all I can tell you.
This is a standard Democrat talking point. Yes, you might have had some bad candidates this year, but we had exceptional candidates, and Larry Hogan was one of them, and he ran an outstanding campaign.
That's fine. Just remember what happened at the end of Bob Ehrlich's first term. He had a 55% approval rating, and he was soundly defeated.
Let me tell you something, Casey.
Jerry,
history repeats itself until it does not, my brother.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go on to my pet topic, which is the city of Rockville and their incredible government. Warehousing, which includes self-storage warehouses, has been a permitted use in the city of Rockville light industrial zone since 1956, almost 60 years. And it was included once again when the city redid their zoning ordinance in 2008, 5 years ago. Jerry, the area that a property is located in on Taft Street is an industrial zone. And this week, the city of Rockville is holding hearings to try to rezone the use of self-storage out of the code because they want to block the development. Now, the guy who bought it, he bought it out of bankruptcy. He wants to put the property back into use. So why? Why in the world would the city leaders not want to develop this property?
You got to look at the big picture, Casey. There's not only not a single elected Republican out of Montgomery County, there's not a single elected person to state or county government out of the business community.
This has nothing to do with party.
You got to let somebody finish, Casey. You are not Bill O'Reilly.
The government,
there is nobody from the business community. They don't think in terms of it.
The city government of Rockville is nonpartisan. It has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. It's who's been elected.
Well, this is the pool of people from which you come. People that don't think about business, don't think about being fair to a business, and think about for a minute, what could be a more benign use of property than a storage unit where people drop stuff off and they usually don't even come back to pick it up, and it ends up on a TV show. That's the most benign use of property you could possibly have, but they don't like it because somebody complained about it and they're anti-business.
Nicolee, the property in question is the old Wonder Bread facility on Taft Street, and it's been abandoned for 5 years. Why is this just another message that the city is sending that Montgomery County and the city of Rockville is anti-business because they're trying to change the rules midstream?
Absolutely. And I think what we all love about America is the fact that it's supposed to be a level playing field. We are all supposed to operate under the same rules. And I was just talking about this on Fox this morning. Last night there was a poll out saying that 68% of Americans think, for example, President Obama is fundamentally changing the way the American structure of government works. That is a loss of checks and balances. It's a loss of freedom. And whether it's the city of Rockville or it's the United States Congress or the President of the United States, when people lose that faith in our basic system of government and that concept of a level playing field, America doesn't work anymore. So that's my concern.
Well, this is what, as I said, is a pet issue of mine, because I was president of the Rockville Chamber of Commerce for many years, and this is just another example of Rockville city leaders being short-sighted and being anti-development and discouraging development in their very city limits when they're desperate for jobs and desperate for growth. This is just an incredible thing that the city of Rockville, tell you how bad this is, that 2 members of the planning board voted against the zoning change. They said it's unconstitutional, that it's targeting a single property, and they wouldn't support it. This is how crazy this has gotten. It's a terrible misuse of government resources to just capriciously make changes to the way our country and our economic structure is being developed.
I think what Nicolee said is that the American people are concerned about this, and I think it's a healthy fear.
Well, I hope that not only the Rockville Chamber of Commerce, I hope all of the chambers of commerce of Montgomery County find this an issue that they should write to the City Council and be vociferous in their opposition to this text amendment. When we come back from this short break, we're going to talk a lot of fun things. We're going to talk about our end of the year review, winners, losers, and whiners. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now it's time for our final end of the year review discussion about who had the worst year in Washington. We'll start with you, Jerry.
Who had the worst year in Washington?
Or who had the best year in Washington, Jerry?
America did, because they elected Republicans to go to Washington. The Republican Party has more members elected than any time since 1928. That makes everybody in America a big winner.
And who had the worst year, Jerry?
Democrats did. They're getting unelected right and left. Barack Obama has elected more Republicans and seen more Democrats go than anybody in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's what I love about
that
you,
boy
Jerry.
has some serious talent.
You're going to get me canceled, Jerry.
That is my raison d'etre, brother.
Nicolee, who had the best and the worst year in Washington?
All right. Well, worst year would be individual President Obama. The problem, the resulting disaster is America's image on the world stage, and that is my biggest concern, because we are not viewed as having a united front, and we have just been completely marred with Syria, with Egypt, with Cuba now. The list goes on and on. Iran, nuclear ambitions, it's the Ukraine, Crimea, it's horrifying. Best year, certainly Republicans having the best election cycle that we've had in any of our lifetimes. That's certainly exciting from the Republican side.
I hate to disagree with Nicolee, but I have to do it. Barack Obama did not have a bad year. Barack Obama is doing exactly what he wants. He is playing chess, several moves down. What he wants to do is turn America into California with illegal immigration, and he cannot change the voters' minds. So what he's going to do is change the constituency of the voters.
Okay, well, I'm glad you answered that 3 times. All right, so we have to focus in on Maryland. So who had the best year and who had the worst year? Nicolee.
Best year in Maryland was the citizens of Maryland, because we at least have hope we can live here and get jobs now. Good year, Larry Hogan, for completely upsetting national trends and having the surprise race pulling it out, getting elected in a sapphire blue state.
I'm so happy to be able to agree with Nicolee. The citizens of Maryland had the best year by electing Larry Hogan. Who had the worst year by far is the Democratic candidate for governor. Because how you lose, even with Martin O'Malley's help and Larry Hogan's brilliant campaign, how you lose in a state that's getting bluer and bluer takes some real talent, but Brown had it.
All right, Nicolee, you have something to add?
I'm going to disagree a little.
God.
Of course it hurts for Brown to lose by 5 points in a state like Maryland, but it's even worse for Martin O'Malley, because he has a very difficult track record to try to run for president now.
Well, I'll address it.
He was living in a fantasy world from the get-go.
All right, it's the old saying is pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and you're just enjoying this way too much, Jerry. Let me talk to you about O'Malley.
Yes.
I don't think O'Malley is going to be hurt by this in the long run at all.
How so?
Because Democrats have a very short memory.
Yes.
And they like the message that O'Malley delivers, and they won't care when he goes into New Hampshire and he goes into Iowa, and he gives the populist message that he has tried, and he attempted to do all the things that they wanted to do, and he was very successful on all the social issues. So I don't think O'Malley's going to be hurt in the long run.
I would disagree.
Casey,
now, and look at polling to justify
the people with the money are not going to put it behind O'Malley because he unelects Democrats.
I'm sorry that we don't have the other two chairs here, because
I've been meaning to address that. This is the most sensible panel of Democrats I've been with on this show.
This is painful even for me. But we have to, this is a local show. We talk about Montgomery County and we talk about Montgomery County politics. So who had the best year in Montgomery County? Jerry.
I think for the first time I'm speechless, because I just can't imagine who would have had a good time in Montgomery County. I can't tell you who had the worst time in Montgomery County.
Well, let me answer the question for you, because you're not going to give me the answer that I want. I think Ike Leggett had the best year. He was elected for a third term, and I think Ike's competence, and he's demonstrated that through 3 terms as county executive, and a long term on the county council. There's steady leadership there. I think he tries to do the right thing. Nicolee, who had the best year in Montgomery County?
I would agree it's Ike, because that's impressive to be elected for a third term. However, I can't get over how bad I feel for the citizens of Montgomery County that you're living under a one-party monopoly. That is no way to get improvements in your life.
Well, it's interesting, and I'll just digress for a second. I think in all politics you need that creative tension between parties. I think it's good for good government. I think it's good in all areas, and it is too bad that we don't have a stronger Republican Party.
No, the problem is this, and it's our fault. The people in Montgomery County do not pay attention to local politics, and they're getting what they deserve. They just go in and they vote for a party line. They can tell you everything about Nancy Pelosi's hairdresser and what outfit she's gone on, but they wouldn't know Ike Leggett from the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
Whose fault is that, Jerry?
That is the people of Montgomery County's fault.
Why is it the people of Montgomery County's fault? The Democratic Party does a pretty good job of energizing their base and getting people to understand their issues. So isn't really the failure of the party, the Republican Party, not to get a greater variety engaged in the process?
Casey, you astound me how often you say so little and be wrong so many times. The problem in the county is the fact that we are gerrymandered in such a way that even we had like 40-something% of the county, we couldn't elect anybody because of the gerrymandering in the county, and you know that's true. But I laud your ability to try and distract us from that.
When you ran for office, didn't you run on a message? It wasn't just that you were a Republican. You ran on a message about education and about the needs of the county. The failure is the candidates aren't running on a strong message.
Actually, Blair used my campaign as an example
Blair
of how
Lee.
futile, Blair Lee, as of how futile it is, because I ran a great campaign. They knew who I was. They knew what the issues were. They didn't care. They're just going to vote Democrat.
And here's where I have to chime in and defend my partners in effort on the Republican Central Committee in Montgomery County. We have awesome people on that committee. They're working so hard. They work tirelessly. We've had some very innovative grassroots programs, and we have seen our numbers go up. And we hit our benchmarks for Larry Hogan in Montgomery County. However, we still desperately are striving to have some form of two-party representation in this county.
All right. Well, we only have a couple minutes left. So let's refocus on the end of the year questions and what we're hopeful about going forward into 2015. Nicolee.
I am hopeful that 20-somethings in the state of Maryland will be able to have a job, build their resume, and someday build a home. And I think this is possible now that we have Larry Hogan elected. He's going to actually, I think, have some fiscal restraint and do good things for the state to try to attract business to it and be a more level playing field for our people.
Jerry, and I promise I won't interrupt you.
Larry Hogan has given hope to people in Maryland. I can't tell you how many people I have talked to who have said, man, I am out of here. I'm going to retire somewhere else. I'm going to move somewhere else. And they have said, wait a minute. With Larry Hogan being elected, I am going to reconsider. And I have not heard that in years.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Now, the last question is, we have some big issues confronting us both nationally and locally. What are you concerned about? Go talk with you, Nicolee.
I'm extremely concerned about our personal safety based on our very weak stature on the world stage right now. I think when America is portrayed as weak as we are right now, we are prone to many more attacks than if we had a strong world view. So the series of foreign policy missteps and us giving away the farm for free, negotiating on policy based on taking hostages and releasing criminals, what we've seen in Cuba with the Taliban, with Al-Qaeda, the list goes on. I'm very concerned about how that weakens us and subjects us to increased harm.
Quickly, you have about 30 seconds.
The poison of Obama's foreign policy and domestic policy, as it continues to elect Republicans that can turn it around, what I'm worried about is that the patient may be dead by the time we have the election next time.
It just, I just should know better. When you do a cross-examination, you never ask a leading question. I should know better than to ask a leading question of Jerry Cave. Stay tuned for Parting Shots when we come back from this short break. Oh, I ought to have my head examined. Go to Parting Shots. I just want to say that as we approach the end of the year, tonight two of our panelists, Sam Statlin and Susan Heltemus, couldn't make it because they were both taken ill. So we were left a little imbalanced tonight, but nevertheless we're going to continue on. So Jerry, your parting shot.
I talked to Santa Claus, and he told me what he's going to do on Christmas Eve. And what he's going to do when he gets to Larry Hogan's house is he's going to shimmy on down that chimney. And when he gets down there, he's going to say, ho, ho, ho. And then when he goes over to Martin O'Malley's house, he's going to shimmy down that chimney, and he's going to say, go, go, go. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Jerry. Nicolee, you have a lot to top. Can you top that?
I do. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. I'm not going to talk about Santa shimmying down the chimney. However, I'm just concerned, and I know it's not a time to talk about concerns, but I am concerned about the great overreach of our federal government. I was just reading in the Wall Street Journal today how the Obama administration is preparing to now rate colleges, and they have the most fascinating topics on which they are going to rate them, which I do not think will result in colleges taking the right action and really basing our society on a merit-based system. So I'd really, for Christmas, love the federal government to kind of leave us alone and just let us do the best we can for our families. Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you, everybody. I want to thank you for being here. It's interesting that we who live in the microcosm of Washington and are so involved in politics get moved easily by minor gossip and minor stories. And I think going forward, we're going to have a very tumultuous 2015 as the Congress fights with itself on both sides of the party and both sides of the aisle. They're also going to be fighting with the president over substantive political issues. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. We look forward to a rousing, robust 2015. For 21 This Week, I'm Casey Aiken.
I think this is one of the best shows I've ever had.